So, our Arc Lightning / Crackling Lance build just got a huge damage boost. Yes, I'm talking about the recent Archmage changes. We are going to experience endgame with this build with its insane damage numbers. Wait until you hear this. Our casual Arc setup deals 100 million damage. And if we feel like spicing things up for bosses, then our Crackling Lance setup deals over 220 million face melting damage. Yes, you did not mishear that. Not even the new tier 17 map bosses stands a chance against this build. And the only thing needed to swap setups is to change 2 gems, as there are 0 changes needed for items, jewels or passive tree. To be honest, not even I expected to reach such numbers back when I was planning this build, but here we are. So first we begin with our Ascendancy. We are a Hierophant, mainly because Hierophant is the best mana support Ascendancy in the game. First we begin with Arcane Blessing. This node makes Arcane Surge grants us 20% more spell damage boost alongside its other bonuses. It also grants us free level 1 Arcane Surge buff whenever we hit something. Please note that the 20% more spell damage boost scales with modifiers to Arcane Surge buff effect, which is the reason why this node is extremely powerful. Anyway, next we have Conviction of Power. This node grants us +1 to maximum power charges and endurance charges. It also sets our minimum charges for both to 4. We mainly care about the +1 maximum power charge here, as it allows us to play as a power charge stacker. However, the minimum endurance charges are also nice for their defensive boost. From here we grab Divine Guidance. This node increases our maximum mana and makes it so that 10% of all damage we take is taken from it before life. This combined with the Agnostic Keystone and Mind Over Matter makes it so that we cannot die as long as we have any amount of mana remaining. They also allow us to run Righteous Fire for that extra spell damage boost. Now for our last Ascendancy node, we actually don't have any. The remaining nodes in the Hierophant Ascendancy are quite useless for us, so we decided to take the small mana node instead. But with that we are done with our Ascendancy. Now let's take a look at our passive tree. Our tree remains unchanged from its previous iteration. We still focus on mana, lightning damage, spell damage, cast speed, spell crit chance and crit multi, mana regen, and life. Next we have 2 large cluster jewel setups. These add some powerful damage notables like Practiced Caster, Sap Psych, and Scintillating Idea. Next for mastery choices, we have spells that gain intensity have +1 to their maximum intensity, +15% to maximum shock effect, 3% increased damage per power, frenzy, or endurance charge we have, and +25% to critical strike multiplier against unique enemies. And that was it for our passive tree. Now let's go over our items. First, we are still using the build signature wand, and that is Void Battery. 2 of it to be specific. This one grants us +1 to maximum power charges, global crit chance, cast speed, mana, and lots of spell damage with power charges. It is best in slot and only costs few divines for the hilarious amount of damage it provides for the build. Anyway, next we got Crown of the Inward Eye with +1 to maximum power charge corruption. This helm is quite essential for its general life and mana stats, though you really want to get it with +1 maximum power charge corruption. If you can do that, then you can craft +1 power charge rare helm instead, although that's going to be difficult, hence buying this helm is optimal. Anyway, for our body armor, we have Cloak of Defiance. This chest grants us Mind Over Matter Keystone for free, saving us many passive points on the passive tree. We mainly use it for its 1% max mana regen though. It's the only item in the game with percentage based mana regen, which we desperately need. Another mandatory item to go alongside it is Adziri's Foible Amulet. Mana is both offensive and a defensive resource for this build, and as such we need to get as much of it as possible. This amulet heavily boosts our mana and its regen. Basically everything we need. Make sure to anoint your amulet with Disciple of the Unyielding for that 5th permanent endurance charge and 40% increased damage. Next for our rings, you are going to need 2 copies of a synthesized ring with 6% increased spell damage per power charge implicit. Spam Essences of Scorn on them until you hit both percentage mana regen and crit multi. Now if you end up with an empty suffix, then lock the suffixes and reforge caster to forcefully add cast speed to your suffix pool. After that, lock the suffixes again, use a Veiled Orb to get Veiled mana or life, and then craft the other one yourself. Next for our gloves, we got Eldritch Influenced gloves with life, mana, resistances, and any Veiled damage mod you can get, or simply craft it yourself to save some currency. However, the most important thing to get here is both lightning exposure and chance to unnerve enemies on hit implicits. These are a lot of damage and can be easily added via Eldritch Acres and Embers. But now for our boots, we are looking for movement speed, dexterity, mana, life, and the resistance mod. Here you can always add some useful Eldritch implicits like increased action speed and increased cooldown recovery rate if possible. Ignore any mods that I have crossed in red as these are not required for the build. Now for our belt, we have one with crucial mod to get here, and that is increased mana recovery rate Redeemer mod. This is required for the build and you must try to get it max rolled and catalysted up to 14%. Other mods to look out for here are the usual. We want life, mana, and resistances. But with that we are done with our items. Now let's go over gems that goes inside of them. For our main 6 link setup we have Arc, Archmage, Power Charge on Crit, Inspiration, Awakened Spell Echo, and Awakened Lightning Penetration. The new Archmage support does not scale its damage with increased mana cost. Hence using Inspiration with it is unironically a good idea. Now to switch into our max damage Crackling Lance setup, replace both Arc and Awakened Lightning Penetration for both Crackling Lance and Intensify support. Anyway, next we have a 4-link Guard setup. This one contains Arcane Cloak, level 20 Arcane Surge, Increased Duration, and Enhance. We are going to manually proc Arcane Cloak here to fully capitalize on its bonuses. Anyway, next we have a 4-link damage support setup. In it we have Wrath, Eternal Blessing, Righteous Fire, and Empower. Now for our movement setup, we got a 4-link with Lightning Warp, Faster Casting, Less Duration, and Swift Affliction. If you don't like Lightning Warp, then just use Dash instead. Finally, we got a 3-link setup with few leftover gems. We have Conductivity, Summon Lightning Golem, and Faster Casting. And that was it for our gems. Now let's talk about jewels. For our Watcher's Eye, we are still using a simple Watchers with just 15% lightning penetration while affected by Wrath. Next we got one Militant Faith Timeless Jewel that specifically mentions High Templar Dominus. Place this one in this socket to maximize its effect. This one will convert all nearby keystones into Inner Conviction. Inner Conviction grants us 3% more spell damage per power charge. If this jewel ends up converting any important notable within its range, then don't panic. Just sell it and buy a different one. Our last unique jewel in this build is the Adorned. This jewel increases the effect of all socketed magic jewels by 150%, but only given that they are corrupted. And as such, you are going to need 4 identical magic jewels like this one. You are looking for increased maximum mana and 15% to spell crit multi. Anyway, now for Bandits quest, we are going to help Alira, obviously. As for Pantheons, we got the Soul of the Brine King for its freeze immunity, and the Soul of Garo Khan for its shock effect reduction. And that was it for the best iteration of Path of Exile's best lightning spellcaster build. If you guys have enjoyed this video, then feel free to leave a like and maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future build guide like this one. My name is Phoenix and I will see you all in the next video.